Welcome back to Can We Have a Conversation? We're continuing our conversation with Dr. Robin Thompson Webb, and we're talking about parenting with teens and teen fathers, teen mothers. And so I want to continue this conversation just about how do you feel the work that you're doing are impacting these young people, and how do you think that more people can be involved in trying to make a difference?
Okay. Want to give a little bit of history about the funding for pregnant and parenting teens. Before 2014, the CDE, California Department of Education, had direct funding to CalSafe, where they have, programs where these mothers go to school and also have child care services for their children. And those programs are actually, still in existence. However, now the program doesn't have that direct funding. Some years ago, back in 2014, they had what we call the LCFF starting, the Local Control Funding Formula. And what happened is all of the different pots of money were folded into one big pot and given to the districts, and then the districts could decide how they really wanted to use that funding. So if a young lady still decides they want to go to one of the special pregnant and parenting schools, then the district will pay the funding for that student to go. So the implications for that, though, are that not all pregnant and parenting young ladies will want to attend those programs, and they only receive the funding for those that go. So the programs are not as richly funded as they once had been. And, that was a big change there. I believe that there probably are some districts that are probably doing very good by their pregnant and parenting teens that did not decide to go to one of the special schools. But I believe that there may be some that have not put together all of the extended activities and connected activities needed to help these young ladies become ready for post-secondary endeavors. When I did my study, I went to 2 different schools, and I talked with the students, but more so I talked with the teachers, and they were talking about how after the LCFF came into play, that their numbers dwindled. And it's not because there aren't pregnant girls. It's just that the young ladies are not encouraged to go to the programs as much because, the district says that they can provide for them at their own schools.
I was going to ask, how are these young girls informed about this, or what if they don't know about these programs?
9 times out of 10, a young lady will see a counselor on the campus. Let me give you a little background on this. Back when I was working in career tech ed, I also was the work permit provider. And so students would, if they wanted to work, they'd fill out a work permit application after somebody had planned to hire them, and then they would come in to see me, and then I'd take a look at their grades and see if they were eligible. So mainly I would get a prospective teen father, and he might come in and he might say, I need a job, and I'd be looking at his grades and I'd say, well, you're not really eligible to work. Why do you need this job so much? And then they would tell me, well, my girlfriend's pregnant, and then I would have to think, okay, well, what kind of conditional work permit can I allow this young man to have? Because we know that he needs to be responsible, and we know that he needs to be able to put some money, into the girl's hands for the onset of this baby coming and everything. And so when that would happen, then I would, tell this young lady or either her counselor, look, this young lady needs some options. Although you cannot push a girl to go to another school, they have that right, but they want to be able to make it as easy for her as possible. When a student is at a regular public high school, they have so many more units that they have to pass to graduate. When they go to the alternative programs, then they don't have as many units to pass. And so that's the reason why many of them, might go to such a, alternative program.
Now, with these alternative programs, even though they may not have as many units, they can still get a diploma?
Yes, they can still get a high school diploma. The high school diploma will actually say the school, that they did graduate from, but after a student graduates from high school, and especially if they move on to community college, wherever they're going to go to school or look for a job, whatever that last transcript is, that tells an employer or that tells a college that this person finished this program and they are ready to move on. So you don't want to feel like it's little me or little you because you only graduated from the pregnant girls' school. It's an accomplishment, and it is preparing you for that next step in life.
So what do you see working with, your experience? I know you worked with group homes. I know you worked with social services, and I know you're working with these teen parents. What is one of the biggest barriers that you've ran into as you've been doing this work?
I would say that probably the biggest barrier is keeping students engaged. You have all of these students that, I want to do it. In the summertime, as I said, I would run these internship programs, and everybody wants a job. And, you get them onto the internship, and, they're there for 3-4 weeks, and then, somebody calls them and says, hey, let's go do such and such. And then the next thing you know, they're not there. Their employer calls you and says, well, why isn't so-and-so here? I don't know, let me check on why so-and-so isn't here, because one of our rules is if you're not going to work that day, you need to call in and let us know so that, we can be an advocate for you. Anytime that you're working with young people, they can be fickle sometimes, or, something comes up at home, and because they don't have that wisdom yet, that experience, they may not do exactly what you think they should do. And because of that, they need mentors, they need guidance, helping them to make good decisions, because they don't always have the experience they need to be able to back off of that temptation.
No, that's a good point. The young men that I deal with, I notice that they don't make really good decisions. They make some real bad decisions. I remember telling my son, because he's real concerned about me going into San Quentin, and he says, Dad, be careful, watch out, make sure you watch out, because you got to come home, and I'm telling him, I said, son, but one thing you have to understand about San Quentin, everybody in San Quentin is not bad. They just made some bad decisions, at a young age. So you got a young person who's made a bad decision at 17, 18, and doing 25, 30 years, because of one bad decision. And so we have to do a better job in helping model great mentors, in helping them to see what decisions and the outcomes of the decisions that they've chosen because for every action there is a reaction,
Exactly.
whether it's positive or negative.
Exactly.
Yeah. So even with these young women as well, you know, some of these guys that they're being involved with as far as sexually, you know, may not be the right person that they should be engaged with in the first place. Not even talking about the sex piece, but just talking about it in general. Because there's some really bright young ladies and have bright futures, but they go down a road where they didn't think because they just heard somebody tell them they loved them, and they went with the love piece when it was really lust, and now they have a child that kind of altered their direction in which
Their
they
path.
were going.
Exactly. Exactly.
So what do you think about that as far as, you know, how can we do a better job in helping these young men and women make better decisions, particularly about having kids at such a young age?
Well, you know, peer pressure is really strong at that age. And one of the things that I've always tried to instill in students is that I know that this peer pressure is real heavy, and it works on you. We need to work with those leaders and help them to, you know, kind of keep their comrades, you know, together. And so with the program, we're hoping that the power will be in the cohort process, and that will be a point where they'll be interested in staying engaged. One of the things that I would like to do with the program is, once we can get so many of them into the post-secondary level, then they will become the mentors for the next group coming along, because there's always going to be someone who is going to be a teen and pregnant and having a baby. And if you would have some mentors that can help to guide those younger ones, then you will have a larger safety net, a bigger village, you know, more opportunities for them to have someone to talk to help them to make good decisions.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think it's good that they can see someone who's already been through the process and probably made some mistakes along that process, that will say, hey, look, you know, I went down this route and this is what happened, and I'm just looking out for you so that you don't go down this same route, because it was a setback for me, and you seem to be a little bit more focused than I was. So this is something that I would recommend or suggest, you know, that you might want to consider. As we give back to our communities, I think about my own life and growing up in East Oakland, and I made a whole lot of bad decisions. And you know, I tried to shelter my son from making those same decisions. He makes some bad decisions on his own, but you know, he's going to have to do that. But as a father, I want to make sure that I give him everything he needs so that he's on the right path, and that he will make some good decisions, and that he will think things out prior to him acting. You know, and yes, he's still gonna, he's a teenager, he's still gonna make some bad decisions, but we're trying to eliminate, you know, or minimize, you know, the amount of mistakes that he makes and how detrimental it could be towards his future.
Most definitely. When I was working in career tech ed, one particular year, we had two young ladies who were wanting to intern, and they were both pregnant, and I was actually pregnant with my child at the same time. So, you know, there were the three of us there in the office working and everything. And one of the things that I found by having those young ladies there normally, you know, we would have found a placement for them outside of the office, but, you know, we wanted to make sure that they were in a setting where if they weren't feeling well, we understood and, you know, they could go and put their head down or something like that. But having them there among all of these older women helped them to be able to stay calm and, you know, out of some of the fray that they might have gotten into. Two of them, you know, I still see, you know, every so often, and they're working, you know, which was, you know, basically one of the principles, or I should say one of the outcomes that you want happening for, you know, students coming out of, you know, your CTE programs. You want them working, you want them to be in education or either finishing some kind of certificate or something. And you know, that's how that works.
Yeah, I remember talking to a young group of men, young men, middle school, high school age. You know, I asked them, I said, how many of you all have children? You know, 14, 15, 16-year-old. Well, 3/4 of them raised their hand. And I said, okay, looks like it's more than half of you. How do you plan on raising your children? How do you take care of your children? I mean, do you work? And, you know, you're 14, 15-year-old. How do you provide for this child that you have? And the guy told me, he says, well, I take what I want. I said, oh, okay. So you take what you want to provide for your children. But see, this goes back to the decisions that you're talking about making. Because he thinks he's providing for his child by taking from somebody else who's working for their child. So I said, so what you're saying is here I am as a father that goes to work to take care of my children, and you rob me to take from me, so you take away from my children so you can provide for your children. And he says, I never thought about it that way. I said, so the next time you think about robbing someone, I said, you think about who you're robbing and how you're taking away from somebody else's child because you're lazy and you don't want to go to work. See, these are the type of things where we have to get them to start thinking, because the thinking is off. You know, it's kind of skewed. You know, if you could take some of that energy that's negative and bring it positive, because that same person who was saying that was acting out, was, you know, just kind of a disruption, and so we just kind of channel that energy somewhere else, and to the point that we're looking at this guy because he's really a leader. He just needs to be able to be heard.
Exactly.
You know.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. One of, you know, the things that I noticed, you know, when I was running internship programs is you'd be surprised, you know, the number of students that didn't have family members that were working or that could help them to be able to become ready to work. And so, you know, we used to have a program where we would put them through about 2 weeks worth of, you know, pre-work type situations to help them understand what is the protocol, what is the etiquette, you know, for being in a job. And you'd be surprised the number of young men that don't have those skills, and the female, you know, doesn't have those either. And so I think sometimes it's not that they're lazy, it's that there's that fear of nobody's going to hire me. And you know, especially because I don't have clothes. I don't know how to do a resume. I may not even know how to go online now and put in an application. And so with Rocker, we want to be able to take them through that progression so that the next time they're actually looking for a job, they'll have that experience and, you know, move on with it. I always used to take students, you know, when I was running internship programs to the Port of Oakland. And, you know, students go down to Jack London Square all the time, but when they're down there, you know, they're looking at, oh, there's this restaurant, oh, there's that, oh, we can do this, we can do that. But they're not taking the flip side and looking at the number of careers that are there. And I used to actually take them into the offices so that they could see who was there, and, you know, they could see where they needed to go if they, you know, wanted to, you know, get a job. When we would go on these excursions, we would take the bus or take BART, you know, so that they could see how to get there without being delivered. And you'd be surprised the number, oh, I couldn't get to work because I didn't have a ride. Not in my program. We showed you how to get there. We showed you how to call BART.
People have told me that they've gotten these young men in these apprenticeship programs, and they've learned to become welders, and then they stop coming, and they says, well, where were you? It's like, man, that work was too hard. Or, no, I don't want to do that.
Oh yeah.
You know,
oh yeah.
You don't want to do that because your friend not doing that. And then you found there was an easier way to make some money and a faster and bigger amount of money. So that's the part when I say the lazy part.
I want to find something easier to do. Yeah.
And you know, you challenge them on life based on easy. If you really want to get better and you want to do better, it's not always easy.
Yeah.
You know, you're gonna have to find, you know, strategic ways to challenge yourself. You want to play against people who's better than you. You want to go and compete with people on a higher academic level who's going to challenge your thinking and your mind, you know, problem solving, and, you know, just to get you so that you can be able to engage with them on another level, to be able to communicate with them on another level. Because if not, and I tell my son this all the time too, and I tell myself that if I'm in a room and I'm the smartest person in the room, obviously I'm in the wrong room.
Exactly, because you're not growing.
You're not growing, you know, and so, and these are things that we don't really typically see in our communities as far as being challenged. I do remember growing up in East Oakland, and yes, I grew up in an area that, especially in high school, that was not the most productive place to grow, the most positive place. But I can say that we had committed teachers. And the teachers were older teachers, and they were people of color, and they were mentors, and they weren't afraid of us. And they made sure that we did what we were supposed to do. So even if we was in the urban community or in the inner city, we still was getting that education. We knew education was the key. We knew we knew how to read, we knew how to write, we knew how to do arithmetic. You know, now you just got to be cool or you got to be dumb. You know, you can't be smart and cool. I don't know where that comes from, but you know, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, but growing up, I used to know guys that had, you know, perms and, you know, finger waves, and in high gifted classes. You know, they were in high advanced classes, but they were thugs. But they knew, you know, they knew education, they knew how to read, they knew how to write. I think that this generation has kind of moved in a way that is really hard to reach. These young people, it's really hard to get them to grasp the understanding of education and decision making and choosing friends and choices that you make, even when it comes to in being in relationships with a person. If you're gonna be with this woman and she's your girlfriend or whatever, how much is she your girlfriend? Do you plan on being with her for a while, or is she just gonna be there for a day or two? You know, how much are you invested in this person? Because if you understand that you have a baby with this person, you invested with them for the rest of your life.
Yes, yes. One of the statistics on that is that 8 out of 10 teen fathers don't marry their co-parenting partner. That's a big number You know, the potential is there for the father to be unattached or loosely attached, even if they're not married, even if they're not cohabitating, but, you know, just being there where, you know, a child can, you know, oh yeah, I'm going to see daddy this afternoon, or I'm going to see daddy this week, or that type of thing. That's very important.
Oh yeah,
Very important.
You know, the documentary that we're doing is called The Gift of His Presence, meaning him being present, being consistent, you know, being there. You know, it's nothing like knowing the security of knowing that your father's there, that your father's supporting you, that he's rooting you on, he's invested in you. You know,
for sure.
You know, you play harder when your father's there. You know, you playing sports and your father's saying, go, 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 you know, and you see your father, that's going to energize you. That's going to give you the motivation to want to, you know, please your father, you know. But it's something else when you look in the stands and he's not there. Everybody else's parent is there and yours is not. You see other fathers being engaged with their children and you wonder what's wrong with you. You know, these are things that cause a child to wonder, what did I do wrong? You know, why is it that my father doesn't want to be engaged with me? And then so they start, you know, taking that energy or that, you know, reaching out for that type of love and affection, or even that abuse, and start using it towards a woman, or, you know, or using it towards other men. And so it's amazing, you know. Now I'll close on this, is we were having a conversation with a guy in San Quentin, and he was saying that he was having issues with, when he robbed men, middle-aged men. And he didn't understand, you know, he thought he was just getting the money, and he was just robbing them. But then as he got locked up, and then he got locked up again, he realized there was a pattern. And the pattern was he was robbing men the age of his father. So he was angry at his father. And so he committed crimes toward men.
In that age. There was no connection there, and he didn't see that.
He didn't even see it. So, you know, it's a pleasure having this conversation. Our time is up, but as I told you earlier, we're going to probably have to have you back on the show because the time goes fast.
It does.
So, again, it's a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank
I look
you.
forward to working with you in the future, see the change that's taking place in our community. And so we look forward to seeing you at our next show. Can we have a conversation? Until then, God bless you.